Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about a morning that contained more content than most weeks do, a morning in which Jungkook appeared at Gimpo International Airport heading to Japan for a brand schedule, stopped to interact with fans in the specific warm and unguarded way that has always been one of the most distinctive things about how he relates to the people who follow him, and in the course of that interaction delivered a story about Jin running at the Han River that has been living rent-free in ARMY's heads ever since. We are going to break down everything that happened, the airport departure, the Japan schedule context, the Q&A conversation that accompanied all of it, and the specific Jin story that sent the morning from pleasant to genuinely hilarious in the space of about 30 seconds. But before we do any of that, let us set the scene properly, because the scene is part of what makes the whole thing work. Jungkook at Gimpo International Airport in the morning, dressed in all black, cap pulled down, mask covering his face, moving through the terminal with the specific energy of a person who was already in work mode but who has not yet fully put his public face on. This is a specific and familiar aesthetic. Dispatch was there, as dispatch tends to be when there is anything worth documenting in the Korean celebrity world, and the photos and footage they captured tell a story of someone who was genuinely busy in the Arirang era in a way that even the most ardently dedicated fans occasionally express concern about. He has been moving from the world tour, to brand schedules, to Q&A sessions, to airport departures, to the kind of sustained visibility that characterizes this specific phase of his career with a relentlessness that reflects both his own professional commitment and the extraordinary level of demand that exists for his presence and his time across multiple industries simultaneously. The Japan trip itself is part of the pattern of brand engagement that has become a significant thread in Jungkook's professional life since his designation as a global ambassador for Calvin Klein. Jungkook has made multiple trips to Japan for Calvin Klein events, with his presence at these brand functions consistently generating significant media attention and fan response. His first major Calvin Klein event in Tokyo in October 2023 resulted in viral coverage, with fans and media describing him as the main character and noting that every angle he was photographed from produced results that could only be described as legendary. The pattern established in 2023 has continued and grown. Each brand engagement in Japan has been bigger than the last, the coverage more extensive, the commercial impact more documented. When Jungkook travels to Japan for a brand schedule, the country responds in a specific and measurable way. Calvin Klein's Spring 2026 denim campaign starring Jungkook, directed by Murta Lass, was described as unfolding across a series of immersive worlds unified and guided by Jungkook's style, attitude, and way of living, a high-impact film fusing fashion and entertainment, moving to an instantly recognizable soundtrack and brought to life through the artist's signature choreography and commanding presence. That campaign, and the broader context of the CKJK collaboration that followed it, has established a creative and commercial relationship between Jungkook and Calvin Klein that goes far beyond the conventional brand ambassador dynamic. He is not just the face of the brand in certain markets. He is, increasingly, a creative collaborator whose vision shapes what the brand does and how it presents itself, particularly in Asian markets where his cultural presence creates a specific kind of gravitational pull that no amount of conventional marketing budget can replicate. The Japan brand schedule fits within this larger picture of the Arirang era as a period in which Jungkook's professional life is operating at an intensity and a breadth that reflects the full convergence of his multiple roles as a BTS member in the middle of one of the biggest comebacks in K-pop history, as a solo artist with a catalog that has amassed billions of streams, as a brand ambassador whose commercial impact has been documented by CEOs in public LinkedIn posts, and as a public figure whose cultural reach extends into territories that none of those individual categories fully contains. He arrived at Gimpo Airport in the morning wearing all black and looking like someone who has a very full schedule and is moving through it with quiet, focused determination. And then someone asked him about Jin. The Q&A conversation that accompanied the airport moment, whether conducted physically with fans at the airport or through the social media interaction that surrounds every public Jungkook sighting, produced a series of exchanges that have since been compiled, translated, shared, screenshotted, and circulated across every corner of the ARMY universe. And the exchanges are, collectively, a perfect document of something that has always been true about Jungkook and that the Arirang era has made visible in a new and particularly clear way. This is a person who is simultaneously one of the most globally significant performing artists currently alive and genuinely, endearingly, completely unable to pretend to be anything other than exactly what he is in a conversation with the people he loves. The question about whether he was sleeping well, the first of the exchanges that circulated widely, is the kind of question that could have been answered with a brief, managed, professional reassurance. Most public figures, when asked about their well-being in an airport interaction, give the equivalent of a diplomatic nothing. "I'm great, thank you for asking." Jungkook nodded. One simple physical gesture that communicated more honestly than any elaborated answer could have. He's okay. He's getting there. He is the person who has been described by a HYB performance director as having dedication that surprised everyone in the room, the person whose work ethic even Suga identified as being in a category of its own, and when someone asks if he's sleeping well, the answer is a nod that says, "I'm doing what needs doing." That quality of complete honesty in a managed public moment is something that Jungkook has demonstrated consistently throughout his career, and it lands every time because it is not strategic. It is just who he is. Then came the Jin revelation. And this is where the morning tipped from pleasant into genuinely memorable. The fan who delivered it, who told Jungkook that she had seen him running with ARMY, clearly expected a particular kind of response. What she got was Jungkook, in the airport, at a time when he was ostensibly in work mode and heading for an international flight, doing a double take. Running? With ARMY? When did this happen? And then he processed the information and the answer came, Han River. The fan was talking about Jin, not him. It was Jin Hyun. Jin, who had apparently been spotted doing the specific and very Jin thing of simply going for a run by the Han River and being seen and photographed and documented in the particular way that BTS members are documented whenever they exist publicly in Seoul. And Jungkook, in the airport, at the start of his day, headed to Japan, stood there and laughed. That laugh is the thing. That is the content, in the truest sense of the word. Not the brand schedule in Japan, impressive as that is. Not the airport footage, though it gave ARMY the specific comfort of seeing him moving through the world in real time. The laugh about Jin running at the Han River, completely unprompted and completely genuine, is what has been shared and clipped and made into GIFs and quoted in thousands of comments since that morning. Because it is real. It is a person who genuinely finds their older brother, their Hyun, their Jin Hyun, the first member to complete his service and return to the group's active life, doing something characteristically Jin and genuinely funny, and responding to it the way you respond when someone you love does something that is perfectly, recognizably, irreducibly them. The relationship between Jungkook and Jin is one of the most documented and most consistently affectionate bonds in BTS, and it has a specific quality that reflects the particular dynamic between the youngest and the oldest member of the group. Jin is, in many ways, Jungkook's oldest brother within the group, the member who was there from the beginning, who watched the magne grow from a teenage trainee into a global superstar, who has maintained throughout all of that growth the specific kind of teasing, caring, completely unimpressed by your fame relationship that only an actual older sibling can sustain with any authenticity. And Jungkook's response to Jin doing something like going for a run at the Han River and being spotted is always going to be the laugh, the affectionate, warm, slightly mocking laugh of a younger sibling who loves their Hyung enormously and finds him endlessly funny. The global context for that moment is what makes it feel significant in the larger Arirang era narrative. Jin had just come back from completing his service. The group had reunited. The comeback concert at Gwangwon happened. Arirang was released. The world tour is underway. And in the middle of all of that historic, record-breaking, globally significant activity, Jin is jogging at the Han River and getting spotted and Jungkook is laughing about it at Gimpo Airport on his way to Japan. That is the fullness of what this era actually contains, the extraordinary and the mundane sitting side by side, the global cultural event and the older brother going for a run, the sold-out stadium tour and the airport laugh about Jin Hyung. All of it is real. All of it is them. The next exchange, about the world singing Arirang, shifted the tone from funny to something genuinely moving. Because when Jungkook said that the whole world was singing Arirang together, he was not speaking about chart positions or streaming numbers. He was speaking about something he had witnessed in real time, from the stage, across multiple nights of the world tour, the specific phenomenon of tens of thousands of people who do not share a native language, who come from different countries and different backgrounds and different relationships to Korean culture, all singing the same song together. Arirang, the Korean folk song that has been sung in Korea for centuries, that predates modern pop music by a distance that makes any chart position seem like a very small thing, being sung in a stadium in Las Vegas and another in El Paso and another in Tampa. That is the thing Jungkook was talking about. And his response to it was not pride in the commercial success or enthusiasm about the chart performance. It was something that sounded much more like gratitude. Like wonder. Like the specific feeling of being a Korean artist who has watched his culture reach into the world in a way that his grandparents' generation would not have been able to imagine, and finding it genuinely humbling rather than simply gratifying. The Busan concert mention adds another layer to the picture of where Jungkook's head is on this particular morning. He said he was looking forward to the Busan show. And that statement, brief as it is, carries a specific weight for anyone who knows the history. Busan is Jungkook's hometown. He was born there, grew up there, left as a teenager to pursue his audition and his training in his entire career since then. When BTS plays Busan, they are playing the city that belongs to the youngest member, the city whose identity is bound up with one of the most globally recognizable Korean artists in the world in a way that creates a very specific kind of emotional charge. For Jungkook to say he is looking forward to it, at an airport in Seoul at the start of a day that will take him to Japan, is to reveal something about the specific topography of meaning that his career has produced, the places that are just venues and the places that are something more, that carry history and personal significance that exist independently of capacity or production value or ticket sales. In the BTS, The Return documentary, we saw a specific side of Jungkook in private, a gentle homebody who washes his plates until they literally squeak with cleanliness, proudly points out the dish towel his mother gave him, and watches educational science shows while eating carryout. "I like it when I don't have anything to do and don't have to work out," he said quietly in the documentary. "I wasn't always an introvert, but as I got older, it just happened. I could sit here for 10 hours alone." That version of Jungkook, the one who watches archaeology documentaries and cherishes a dish towel from his mother and is happiest with nothing to do and nowhere to be, is the same person who was at Gimpo airport in the morning headed to Japan for a brand schedule, laughing about Jin at the Han River and telling fans that the whole world was singing Ararang together. Both of them are completely real. The homebody and the global superstar. The person who could sit alone for 10 hours and the person who performs for 65,000 people 4 nights in a row. The person who answered a question about sleep with a nod and the person whose Calvin Klein collaboration generated $30 million in media impact value in 48 hours. What the airport morning revealed, in the specific small way that these unscripted public moments always reveal, is the person who contains all of those things simultaneously and has not found them contradictory. Who goes to Japan for a brand schedule because he is committed to doing it completely and because the commercial reality of his career requires it and because he is the kind of person who does what needs doing. And who, on the way to the airport, or at the airport, or in whatever sliver of time the morning offered, stopped to talk to the people who came to see him off and gave them a laugh about Jin and a thought about Ararang and a moment of genuine presence that sent them home with something they did not expect to have. The world is singing Ararang. Jin is running at the Han River. Jungkook is heading to Japan. And somewhere in the combination of those three things, on an ordinary Thursday morning in Seoul, is everything that makes this specific era of BTS and of Jungkook specifically feel like something that is genuinely worth paying attention to. Not just the records and the stadiums and the CEO statements and the award show wins. But the laugh at the airport. The nod about sleep. The dish towel from his mother. The whole world singing Ararang, and Jungkook finding it wonderful rather than merely impressive. That is the full story. That is the real content. And if you were there for it, in any of the 1,000 ways that ARMY finds ways to be there for these moments, you already know why it mattered. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment below telling me your favorite moment from today's Jungkook airport content and subscribe if you have not already. We will see you in the next one.